I'm about to enter my 10th year on Amazon KDP, and in this video, I'll share how I plan for it so you can copy my strategic planning process and make 2025 your best year yet. A goal without a plan is just a wish, but a bad plan is just a roadmap to frustration. Taking the wrong types of action can waste money, time, and energy, which is why we want to be so picky about our plans. And as Peter Drucker said, there's nothing as useless as doing efficiently that which need not be done at all. The million-dollar question I'm asking myself now is, how can I make failure impossible simply by the actions I take? So the actions we take on a daily basis will either move us closer to where we want to go or further away from it. The first step I'm going through right now is I'm revisiting my vision, and then I'm setting SMART goals based on that vision. So SMART goals, they stand for specific, measurable, attainable, or achievable, and then relevant and time-bound. So these goals are meant to move us closer towards our ultimate vision. And right now, I'm reading a book called The 12-Week Year, and that book is about planning your goals in a 12-week period instead of over the entire year. And the premise is that when you plan the goals over an entire year, you're not getting the same amount of urgency, which is why you see many people towards the end of the year, they push extra because previously they've taken it a little bit easy. But when you create in a 12-week period, you can see, okay, these are the actions I take on a week-to-week basis, and there isn't as much changing as it is over a 1-year period as well. So the best actions to take will differ depending on the stage we're at. For example, for me recently, towards the end of the year, especially with Christmas approaching, I realized that optimizing my Amazon ads was the most powerful lever I could pull in order to make the results for 2024 the best they could be. The question I'm asking myself currently is, how can I make best use of what I've already built? So in other words, how can I leverage the assets that I already have? And this could be everything from technology to connections, to the brand, to audience, etc. And this is why I'm such a huge proponent of sticking to something over the long run, because the relationships we build, the skills we build, if we're starting over from scratch with something new, for example, we're changing business model, then we're competing against those who have reached, let's say, level 100 at this new thing that we're starting. And as Einstein said, compounding is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it, earns it, and he who doesn't, pays it. But here's one thing that can keep us from sticking with things in the long run, and this is something that is covered in the 12-week year, and that is when we're setting a goal or when we're starting something, we are usually walking through specific, predictable phases. And the phase number one is called uninformed optimism, which is when we are so excited about this opportunity and we see everything that can be. And this is very normal in the beginning, but eventually we reach the next stage, which is when we discover that, okay, this wasn't as easy as I thought. There are some unexpected challenges, and this next stage is called informed pessimism. And if we keep going, then eventually we might reach even more challenges, and we realize that hard work might be required. And this next stage is called the valley of despair. But if we can push through the valley of despair, then we usually reach a breakthrough. And that breakthrough is when we are now informed optimists, which is a stage where we realize that we can make progress and we can overcome these challenges, and we now have a solid understanding of what it takes to succeed. And then if we continue, then we reach success and fulfillment. And this is when we start to achieve the goals that we initially set. So knowing that these are the stages that we normally go through when we start something can make it so that we continue. Because I didn't know about these stages when I started, which is why I fell into the trap. After 6 months of publishing, I switched business model after I reached a challenge. I reached the valley of despair. But then eventually, when I got back to publishing, I was now an informed optimist again, because I saw that even though if there are challenges, if there are other publishers who are solving these challenges and people are still buying books, then that means that there are still publishers making money from those books. So all I have to do is adapt. And if I keep adapting, if I keep course correcting, then I will succeed as well. I can't tell you exactly what actions you should take at the stage you're in, but I can go through some of these stages that I've been through and the actions I've taken. And then I will also share the stage I'm in currently and what I'm planning on doing moving into 2025. So first, we have the stage when I was broke, when I didn't have resources, I didn't have a brand, etc. Then niche research was one of the most important things I could do, because choosing the right niche will allow us to leverage the Amazon traffic that is already there, because people are searching for example, these keywords, etc. And then it's book creation, and then eventually it's presenting the book in a great way and marketing the book. This is the three-step process that publishers are still going through years into publishing. But eventually you might realize that you're not getting the results you want, and then it's time to ask why. And I think you can agree that no one starts out as a perfect publisher. At least I haven't seen one. Sure, I made $500 the first month, $200 the second month. So you might say, oh, that's great. But what happened after that? I kept publishing. I thought that everything I touched turns to gold, and I got overconfident. And I published a lot of books after that that barely made any money, which proves the point that I didn't know what I was doing, even though I thought that I knew. So what I did was I started developing myself as a publisher. And of course, I revisited the successes that I had with my first two books. And I realized that the reason they succeeded was because of the niche that I selected. So I was much more careful in the next books that I published. Now, another thing is that you might have created profitable books, but you might reach a ceiling. And that could be because you're not fully leveraging the compound effect. And that could be, for example, that you don't have a series built up, or maybe you can do more in terms of building a brand and you can get the compound effect that way. So we want to figure out what is our bottleneck, what is stopping us from growing, because if we can create profitable books, then what is stopping us from growing? And perhaps it's a system, perhaps it's more talented people, or perhaps there is something that we need to get better at, whether that is building a brand or improving as a publisher. But wherever we are in the process, we will need to be aware of our biggest enemy, which is ourselves. So I'll share a little secret. I actually started the YouTube channel about 8 years ago, where I was talking about self-publishing, and I was going to share my journey and the things I learned, etc. But even though I got great results, people were giving positive feedback, it even got a little bit of traction. It wasn't at all like the numbers you see today on self-publishing channels, but it was still good for being back then and for just posting a few videos. But I felt like an imposter, so I eventually quit. And that is something that I regret today, because if had I continued, I would not only have helped a lot of other people probably, but I would also have developed as a publisher myself a lot more. So knowing this, now that I started this journey of posting videos again, I decided to make a commitment, and I decided to publish 100 videos regardless of how I feel, regardless of how my self-talk is, or any limiting beliefs I have about myself or what I'm doing, etc. So that is one advice I would give, is to look at your past failures, look at when you have quit previously, and see what patterns, what caused you to quit. What caused me to stop publishing after 6 months? Or why did I not continue? Was it because I didn't see the results quick enough? And then you might need to shift, okay, instead of focusing on outside results, because sometimes, especially in publishing, when we're creating a book, we're not seeing any results, and then perhaps we publish a book and we're not seeing results. It might require a couple of books until we start to see results. So being too obsessed with the outside results in the beginning, especially the first year, that's not the best strategy. So if I were to start over and I would be a complete beginner, I would commit to doing publishing. I would commit to publishing a certain amount of books, and I wouldn't even be allowed to consider whether to quit or not. Not until I have finished 1 year at least. So that is one of the best advice I could give to anyone who has decided that publishing works or publishing is something that they want to do. Commit for 1 year, and then you make an assessment. Just like I'm doing right now, I've committed to 100 videos. Then I can make an assessment whether or not to continue. Another thing that has helped me is to write down the best version of myself. And I would look at how this person would act, and I would write down, okay, he has these qualities and he acts in this certain way and he does these certain things, etc. And then when you have everything, you have the vision, you have the goals, you have the action plans, you have the best version of yourself. Then whenever you feel low on motivation or you feel burned out, then you revisit that and you look at your plan, and then you simply decide, okay, if I simply do what is on the plan today, then I'm successful. Because success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So that means that we are successful even though we don't have the outside results yet, as long as we're sticking to the plan, as long as we're getting closer. So for example, you can see the path I'm walking on right now. I can choose to walk out here, but if I know that my goal is right there, then I just need to step by step make progress on that path. And as long as I'm doing that, I'm successful. So take the emotions out of it, take the self-talks, take the limiting beliefs out of the equation, and simply focus on the action steps that you take. And then if you do that over a long enough time horizon, and you do that in combination with analyzing, because that is one thing that I've done, which is a mistake. I've kept my head down and I kept going, and I didn't realize that, hey, you're walking a little bit outside of the road. Maybe you should course correct, get back on the road. Why are you publishing those types of books when you're seeing much better results publishing another type of book? So for me, moving into 2025, I told you I would share what I'm planning on doing now. And that is to see, okay, how can I leverage what I've already built? Because I have so much data. I have so much data when it comes to running Amazon ads, when it comes to publishing books. And I can see clearly what is the 20% that is bringing 80% of the results. And how can I leverage everything that I've already built? So if I have an email list of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, then of course I want to make use of that. And also, if I have social media, how can I post so that my social media posts, for example, if I'm posting YouTube videos, how can those have a bigger impact? And also the books, how can I make them even better? What small tweaks can I make that will increase the conversion rate? Meaning that if people are visiting my product page for my book, how can I increase it so that more people buy? Because if more people buy, it sends a signal to Amazon that this book is popular, it's making money, it's making us money because Amazon wants to make money. And maybe it also leads to new signups for Kindle Unlimited or new Amazon customers, especially if you're driving traffic. So there might be different factors that Amazon likes about the book. So all these small tweaks, they might seem insignificant in the moment, but they can really add up, and over a long enough time horizon can make a huge difference. And I'm also looking into where can I fill gaps in the market, because that usually pays well. So instead of doing what everyone else is doing, we want to ideally figure out how can we fill a gap in the market? How can we complement the market instead of competing? Now, another part of my vision is also being more of an advisor and having a bigger impact. And I believe that if I could have people publish books like I publish books, or if I can transfer what I've learned through these 9 years of publishing, then I would be more useful. And that is why I'm making these videos and doing what I'm doing, because I have already made some great connections, and I do see how this can lead to something bigger, me having a bigger impact. And that is one part of my vision. And you don't always know. For example, now I don't know exactly how I will get to this vision of being more of an advisor, helping people with publishing and having a bigger impact that way. But I know that I can take certain steps that will move me closer to it. And that's all we need to do. Sometimes we simply need to set a direction. We need to have faith that what I'm doing today will lead me to a better future, because that is one thing about entrepreneurship. There's no guarantee. Like when you get a job, you know that you will have your salary as long as you show up from 9 to 5. You get your salary at the end of the month. There's nothing like that with entrepreneurship. You need to have belief that what you're doing is a worthy cause and it's a winnable fight. And if you keep going and you keep course correcting and you keep taking the right type of action, then you will succeed. And remember that you don't need to do this alone. For example, I have a free community on Skool. I also have another community in the making. So, of course, if you can get outside feedback, then that can be very powerful as well. And it can be one way to improve even faster, because sometimes we don't know what we don't know. So to summarize, this is what I would do. I'd create a vision, and then I'd make goals based on that vision, and then I'd make an action plan. And I also want to make these goals and action plans, I want to make them measurable. So for example, yes, I would like to have an income goal. For example, I always set goals, especially in the beginning, the first couple of years, I set goals for every month. So for example, in the beginning, maybe it was make $100 in April. Then in May, I want to make 150. And then in June, I want to make 250, etc. So you make a progressive realization of your goal, and it won't be following perfectly. For example, sometimes it will be below, but then all of a sudden, especially maybe around Christmas, it might go over your initial goal. So that is one thing I would do, but also set progress goals, meaning that I would set a goal on X number of books to publish or X number of books to translate, etc. And then also on the actions that we take, I would look into how can I break it down. So how can I break it down in monthly, but also weekly, and then daily. So for example, currently I'm building a translation team for certain languages, and I'm taking what I have included in the program so people can just copy and paste. And I said, okay, I will simply follow what I've created here. And on day 1, I will post a job post. And then on day 2, I will simply look through the applications, and I will send the first message, send the first milestone. And then on day 3, I will do another thing, etc. So when you break it down like that, even what seems like or feel like a big task, such as creating a book, if you break it down into small, manageable steps like that, you can make progress, and you will make progress as long as you wake up and you do it. And that is why I'm a big fan of always starting with the toughest task first, which is eating the frog, as Brian Tracy said. And then, of course, we want to course correct and make sure that we're following the right path. And throughout the process, keep learning, keep improving. It's a fun process. And remember, success doesn't care about our limiting belief. It doesn't care about our negative self-talk. It doesn't care about our feelings. It just cares about whether or not we showed up. I will continue walking now, and hopefully I'll get back before it gets dark. Now, if you like this video, then you might also like this video where I go over 10 changes to make 2025 your best year yet on Amazon KDP.